There are some games you just have to purchase multiple times, and Vampire Survivors, well, that's certainly one of those games. And with the added benefit of cooperative mode, which is especially brilliant on console, there's fun to be had for all the family. Yes, 2022's Game of the Year is finally available on PlayStation for the absolute bargain price of £3.99 with a limited 10% discount for PlayStation Plus members. It's been available on basically every other platform imaginable for ages, but now it's finally hit the PlayStation Store. Vampire Survivors doesn't need an introduction really, it's been a genre-defining game since its release back in 2021, and if you enjoy roguelike games it's a must buy, and for £4 it'd be almost rude not to buy it. But does its release on the PlayStation bring anything new to the franchise? Well, no it doesn't, but it does include the vast array of free content released so far, including patch 1.11, the Dark Asso, which brings room 1665 to the game, a stage that's as sure to be a challenge as it is to give you a solid dose of epilepsy. The base game has a ton of levels, characters and weapons, plus all 4 purchasable DLCs are available at launch, priced under £2 each, bringing the total to just over £10 for absolutely everything. Its release on PlayStation does mean one thing though: trophies. There are a whopping 221 to collect in total across the base game and DLCs, including the Platinum, which I think is actually a record in terms of the total number of trophies for a single game. The way that the trophies are organised on the PlayStation version is slightly weird due to a permanent error that the developer made and have since apologised for. However, it's by no means the end of the world. You'll find each DLC has its own list of trophies as well as the free updates that have been released over the last couple of years. It's a long list that's going to take a while to get through, but you'll quickly find yourself victim to the just one more go problem, and before you know it, hours will have turned into days and that Platinum trophy will soon be in reach. Vampire Survivors is an oddly compelling game because on the face of it, it just doesn't look very appealing. However, the combination of the game's simplistic gameplay, absolutely awesome music, constant progression, unlocks and that feeling of absolute ultimate domination in the late game make Vampire Survivors one of the most addictively playable games in a generation. The controls are as simple as they come. There basically are none other than directional movement and a menu. Weapons auto-fire and abilities auto-activate, freeing you, the player, to concentrate on what's going on around you, because trust me, as you get to the late game, you're gonna need some of that concentration. Vampire Survivors' simplicity is also one of the best things about the game because it makes it incredibly accessible to such a large audience. My 2 boys are only 6 and 4 and yet we can all play together, which is something I absolutely treasure, at least in the early game, because things do start to go a bit nuclear as time goes on. And I think it's that latter part of the game that's most appealing. Yes, the initial progression is nice, if not a little slow and frustrating at first, but once you buy a few power-ups, begin to piece together how the upgrades work, and when you finally get to evolve weapons like Infinite Corridor, the game totally transforms into something where you're just mowing down wave after wave of mobs. Sound effects are constantly popping off, the weapon effect colours are vivid and bright, and everything about the game has all the hallmarks of an endorphin-ridden casino addiction, but thankfully with none of the financial ruin. And if, like me, you're one of those people who finds themselves constantly having to reorganise their games library due to a lack of hard disk space, then there's more good news, because the entire Vampire Survivors installation is just under 600 megabytes. Which means you can either just leave it installed forever, not having to worry about it consuming precious storage space, or just re-download it whenever you want to pick it back up, because even the slowest of internet connections will make quick work of it. Another thing worth mentioning is that because it's such a simplistic game and it isn't live service, it means it can be paused, which makes it absolutely ideal for remote play. So if you're a PlayStation Portal owner or like to play via remote play on the myriad of devices that support it, this is definitely a game you should pick up. I've already put a bunch of hours into it through the Portal and it's been absolutely rock solid. If my fanboying over Vampire Survivors hasn't got you convinced and you just can't quite get past its retro aesthetic and basic appearance, then I do have a great alternative for you on the PlayStation, and that game is Army of Ruin. It's priced very similarly to Vampire Survivors and is, for all intent and purposes, a Vampire Survivors clone, at least in terms of gameplay and design. The biggest difference being the graphics, which are much more modern looking. It has the same large selection of characters to unlock, a decent selection of levels, a huge number of weapons and accessories to unlock, and an almost identical weapon evolution system. Vampire Survivors is, in my opinion, the ultimate pick up and play game, perfect for both long sessions and those times where you only have 10 minutes to play. It's a game that I've already played to death on multiple platforms and now look forward to becoming a literal garlic god on the PlayStation 2. Thanks for watching, and a special thanks to anyone that has liked, commented or subscribed.